That wasn't just a meltdown. It was a manifesto, and years later in court, that same energy exploded. Diddy charged at a witness so violently that security had to rush in and restrain him. But this rage didn't just show up in that courtroom. It had been boiling for years because even after he was arrested, there were secret prison calls and hush money deals run through his own mother. And then came Cassie's testimony, and what she revealed took this case from dark to unthinkable. Let me catch you up. Let's start with something truly shocking. According to court documents, Diddy has been allegedly contacting witnesses from prison. Yes, you heard that right. The man is behind bars, and he's still trying to pull strings like a puppet master. The prosecutors. He described his efforts as relentless attempts to corruptly influence witness testimony. That's not just crossing a line. That's jumping over it, doing a backflip, and landing in criminal territory. How was he doing this? Well, apparently, he was using other inmates' phone accounts to make calls, which is against prison regulations. That's like borrowing someone else's ID to get into a club when you're underage, except, way more illegal and with way bigger consequences. He was allegedly directing others to orchestrate payment for access, creating this whole underground network just so he could reach out to potential witnesses who might testify against him. But wait, it gets worse. He wasn't just reaching out to witnesses himself. He was also allegedly instructing his family members to contact potential witnesses using your mama to do your dirty work. That's low even for someone facing serious charges. His mother, Janice Combs, was actually named in a lawsuit for allegedly pressuring an accuser to accept hush money. Imagine having your mother participate in silencing people who were allegedly hurt by you. That's not motherly love. That's enabling abuse. Diddy also allegedly orchestrated social media posts, such as drafting an Instagram statement with witness 2 via text and calls from prison to counter allegations by Don Richard. And get this, prosecutors alleged that he paid this witness after they posted the statement, buying people's loyalty. That's not how the justice system is supposed to work. Did he even go as far as monitoring the analytics of a birthday video posted by his 7 children, discussing with his family how it would affect potential jury members? That's some next-level manipulation trying to influence public opinion before the trial even started. These actions were cited in his bail denial, with prosecutors arguing that Diddy's uncanny ability to get others to do his bidding, whether it's employees, family members, or inmates, demonstrated a significant risk of witness tampering. The judge agreed that no conditions could eliminate these risks. In other words, they knew that if they let him out, he'd be on the phone faster than you can say. Bad boy for life, trying to influence everyone involved in the case. Now, let's talk about the conspiracy theories surrounding this case, because they are wild. One of the most talked about involves a man named Jonathan Audi. In 2018, Audi was arrested for shooting at Trump's Doral Miami resort. During his interrogation, he made some explosive claims. He said he was a slave for both Diddy and Cassie. He alleged that Diddy would instruct him on actions with Cassie during their encounters. Audi also claimed that he signed a $5 million NDA with Diddy in July 2014. His ex-wife Tanya Troutwine corroborated this, linking it to their 2014 divorce and Audi's subsequent cash purchases of properties. Initially, people dismissed Audi's claims as delusions due to his mental state and the violent incident at the resort. But here's where it gets interesting. Cassie's testimony during the trial has been interpreted as confirming Audi's involvement in sexual encounters with Diddy. Some people on social media are saying this is proof that another conspiracy theory has turned out to be true. One ex-user at MLC Patriot posted on May 14th, 2025, with Cassie Venter's testimony in the Diddy trials, it looks like another conspiracy theory is true. It's giving where there's smoke, there's fire energy, and in this case, there's enough smoke to fill a stadium. There are also theories that Diddy's behavior was an open secret in the music industry, with other powerful figures possibly enabling or covering it up. This includes speculation about other celebrities and executives suggesting a network of silence that allowed such actions to persist for years. It's not hard to believe, given how many times we've seen powerful people get away with terrible things because they're protected by even more powerful people. Some theories extend to a broader network of abuse within the entertainment industry, with Cassie as just one of the victims. These ideas suggest Diddy's actions are part of a larger systemic issue, though the evidence is often circumstantial and debated. But when you look at the pattern of behavior that's been alleged, not just with Cassie, but with multiple women, it's hard not to wonder how deep this rabbit hole goes. Now, Let's talk about another key detail from the trial, an alleged third victim who's been uncooperative with prosecutors. According to sources, this woman has been described as victim 3 in the indictment, and she's an ex-girlfriend of Diddy's. The prosecutors have been having trouble getting her to testify, with rumors that she's been uncooperative from the beginning.
Have described her, they said this is victim 3 in the indictment. She is, we know, an ex-girlfriend. We know that she's an ex-girlfriend. And there was a whole exchange about her in court this week where they said, we're having trouble getting her to come in, that she has some conflict, she's got things going on in her personal life. And it was described by the government as almost like she wants to be here, but we're not sure we're going to be able to get her here.
Why would someone be reluctant to testify against an alleged abuser? Well, there could be many reasons: fear of retaliation, concern for personal safety, worry about public scrutiny, or maybe, just maybe, they've been contacted by Diddy or someone in his circle pressuring them to stay silent. It wouldn't be the first time a powerful person has used their influence to keep victims quiet. This missing witness could be a major blow to the prosecution's case, as one legal expert pointed out, and they've added them because they knew they needed to bolster their case beyond Cassie, because he can always say, "I was in a long-term relationship with Cassie." In other words, the prosecutors need multiple victims to establish a pattern of behavior to show that this wasn't just a toxic relationship with Cassie, but a systematic way that Diddy treated women without victim 3. Their case could be weakened, which might explain why they're so desperate to get her on the stand. There's also been some wild behavior from Diddy during the trial itself. On the first day, he was spotted reading from a Bible at the defense table before opening statements. Now, I'm not saying people can't find religion during tough times, but the timing feels convenient, like when the teacher catches you passing notes in class, and suddenly you're the most attentive student ever. It's giving too little too late energy. Social media users were quick to call this out as a transparent strategy to appear sympathetic to the jury. One ex-user commented, "Nobody's falling for that," after the massive amounts of baby oil. Referring to the over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant allegedly seized from Diddy's residences, another said, "People who do this in public for show are definitely not real Christians." The cynicism is real, and honestly, can you blame people? It's like when a celebrity gets caught doing something terrible and suddenly they're checking into rehab or donating to charity. We see through those tactics now. We understand that they're not expressions of genuine remorse. They're calculated moves to salvage a public image that's been rightfully damaged by their own actions. But perhaps the most unsettling detail about how Diddy treats witnesses came from the testimony about the hotel incident. The security officer who responded to Cassie's call for help testified that Diddy had a devilish stare on his face when he came out of the elevator. That's not the description of someone who's remorseful. That's not the face of someone who made a mistake. That's the look of someone who's angry that they got caught, angry that their control is being challenged. And then, according to the security officer, Diddy allegedly offered him money to keep quiet about what happened. The officer claimed he didn't take the money, but the mere offer speaks volumes about how Diddy handles situations where he might be exposed. He throws money at the problem. He tries to buy silence. He uses his wealth as a shield against accountability.
He went back upstairs to talk to Puff and explain to him the rules of the hotel and that he had to pay for some things. And Diddy had this like devilish stare on his face when he came out of the elevator at one point, and that Diddy allegedly offered him money. So the man is saying that Diddy offered him money because he didn't want any of this to come out because he...
But Diddy's defense team, led by Brian, still tried to discredit this testimony by pointing out inconsistencies in the security officer's incident report. They questioned why he didn't include certain details in his original report, like Cassie having a purple eye or a man being inside their hotel room. They also highlighted that the officer took videos on his phone of the aftermath and sent them to his wife, suggesting he was fanned out rather than genuinely concerned about what happened.
Brian still was like, okay, well, you told us that when you do your incident reports, you got to report the W's, where, what, why, who, like all the details. So he goes into the incident report and he says to him, he says, the incident reports are important, right? Because when we're recounting these things, we're relying on your report. So everything in your report is valid because y'all depend on that.
810, 829. Yeah, it's a classic defense strategy. Attack the credibility of the witnesses and make them seem unreliable, inconsistent, or biased. But here's the thing, even if the security officer didn't include every detail in his report, even if he was excited to tell people he'd encountered a celebrity, the video speaks for itself. We've all seen the footage of Diddy assaulting Cassie. No amount of legal maneuvering can erase that evidence. The control freak and his victim. Now, let's talk about the star of this horrific show. Cassie Ventura, this woman, who is now pregnant and about to have a baby in June, has been through absolute hell, according to her testimony. When she took the stand on May 13th, it was reportedly the first time she'd seen Diddy since 2018.
They've met since 2018 when she attended the funeral for Kim Porter, which is the mother of Sean Combs' 3 children.
Can you imagine having to face your abuser in court while being pregnant? The strength this woman has shown is absolutely incredible. I'm sitting here thinking if that was me, I would be shaking in my boots, but Cassie walked in with her head held high, looking like the queen she is.
She walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean.
When we talk about how Diddy treats witnesses, we have to start with the most damning evidence, that horrific video showing him physically assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway back in 2016. Y'all, this isn't just a little argument. This is a man dragging a woman, throwing things at her, stomping on her. It's the kind of footage that makes you want to throw your phone across the room. Because it's so disturbing. You know what's wild? Diddy's defense team is trying to spin this video like it was just some regular argument between a couple. They're really out here saying this wasn't about forcing her to stay for one of those special parties, but instead was an argument about Diddy having another woman's number in his phone, like that somehow makes it better. Child, please.
Brian still was a stack. Yeah, he said he came out with a huge stack of money and he didn't offer it.
Speaking of the video, let's talk about the security officer who was there that night. He testified that when Cassie called for help, he found her in distress, saying repeatedly, "I want to leave. I want to leave. I want to leave." And you know what Diddy allegedly said? "No, she's not going anywhere. That's not a man in a relationship. That's a kidnapper. That's a controller. That's someone who thinks they own another human being." The security officer also said that Diddy offered him money to keep quiet. Now, why would an innocent man need to pay people off? I'll tell you why. Because he's not innocent. He's trying to cover up his tracks, trying to make sure his reputation doesn't get tarnished. But it's too late for that. Diddy, the world sees you now. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how Diddy allegedly controlled Cassie during their relationship. This is where it gets really disturbing, y'all. According to Cassie's testimony, Diddy controlled everything from what she wore to who she talked to, even the color of her nails. I'm talking about a man who wanted white or French tip nails on this woman at all times, like, "Sir, your boyfriend," or "her dictator."
Questions to show that she wasn't in control. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person.
And then there's the most disturbing part, the freak-offs. Now, I'm going to keep this as PG as possible because we've got young viewers, but essentially these were situations where Cassie was allegedly forced to engage in intimate activities with other people while Diddy watched. Cassie testified that these events could last up to 4 days, y'all. 4 days. Can you imagine being forced to do something you don't want to do for that long? And the aftermath was so severe that she needed 4 fluids afterward. Cassie also testified that she suffered frequent and painful health issues as a result of these freak-offs. She had urinary tract infections so severe that antibiotics sometimes stopped working. She developed oral sores and stomach problems from the drugs and physical exertion involved. This isn't just abuse, it's torture. It's using another human being's body with complete disregard for their well-being. What's even more heartbreaking is when Cassie was asked if she ever enjoyed these situations, she broke down crying and said she only did because it meant she got to spend one-on-one time with Diddy. That's what psychological abuse looks like, folks. That's what happens when someone breaks you down so completely that you start to associate abuse with love.
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, "I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him."
Let me tell you something, that's not love. That's not what love looks like. Love doesn't hurt you. Love doesn't control you. Love doesn't make you feel dirty. After Cassie testified that after the first freak-off, she felt dirty and didn't want to do it again. She even tried to bring it up in an email, but Diddy shut her down and she ended up backpedaling because she was afraid.
What I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words,
Cassie was only 22 years old when this started. Y'all, 22 a baby. Meanwhile, Diddy was a grown man, a powerful music mogul with all the connections and influence in the world. The power imbalance here is off. The chart, she was young, trying to build her career in the music industry, and she had signed a 10-album deal with Diddy's Bad Boy Entertainment. He held her entire future in his hands, and he knew it.
Who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about.
Case is really showing us the ugly side of the music industry, showing us how power can be used to manipulate control, and abuse. It's showing us that even the people we idolize, the people we think have it all, can be monsters behind closed doors. And the worst part, the jurors were shown photos of injuries that Cassie sustained during their relationship. According to the testimony, she had knots on her forehead, busted lips, black eyes, and bruises. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This was a pattern of abuse that spanned years. The trial and the truth. First things first, let's talk about Diddy's appearance in court. The man is really trying to rebrand himself for this trial, looking nothing like the flashy, blinged-out mogul we're used to seeing. Instead, he's showing up with gray hair, glasses, and wearing sweaters, basically trying to look as non-threatening as possible, one commentator noted.
About before, how appearance makes a difference in cases. How Diddy's appearance, wearing a sweater, having gray hair and glasses and whatnot. You know, that it's all designed for some.
It's like when a wolf puts on sheep's clothing, trying to fool everyone into thinking he's harmless. But we see Diddy, no amount of cashmere and reading glasses can erase what we've all seen in that video. And speaking of appearances, Diddy's family has been showing up to court to support him, including his mother and his children. There was even a moment outside the courthouse where they were seen in what looked like a prayer circle, chanting things like, "Reek to the Most High, and go seek his face." Talk about a PR strategy. It's giving "Please, Lord, let the jury forget what they've seen" energy. What's particularly interesting is how Diddy has been reacting to the testimony against him, especially Cassie's. When she first entered the courtroom, he reportedly turned to look at her while she kept her gaze forward, refusing to acknowledge him. Can you imagine the strength it takes to walk into a room with someone who allegedly abused you for years and not even give them the satisfaction of eye contact? Cassie is a queen for that. During her testimony, Diddy was described as listening intently to everything she had to say. I bet he was hanging on every word, wondering what secret she was going to spill, what details she was going to reveal about the man behind the public persona.
I'll tell you that immediately, the moment she opened her mouth, you could see that Combs was listening intently to everything that she has to say, as well as those jurors.
But despite his...
You ever seen someone sit in a courtroom so still, so stone-faced? It's almost like they're wearing a mask. That's what Diddy looked like while Cassie, his ex-partner of over a decade, delivered a gut-wrenching testimony about years of alleged abuse. He didn't flinch. But don't mistake silence for innocence, because the jury wasn't missing a single word. According to reports, Cassie's voice cracked as she talked about losing herself, mentally, emotionally, and physically, in a relationship where she wasn't even allowed to be who she was. The phrase "who she was allowed to be" says everything. This wasn't just about one toxic romance, this was about total psychological control. But here's where things get real tricky. Diddy's defense team, led by Mark Agnello and Tenny Garagos, argues that everything between them was consensual. They're trying to paint their relationship as edgy, but mutual. They even claim that the viral 2016 video showing Diddy assaulting Cassie, doctored, edited, misleading. But let me ask you something. How do you cross-examine a pregnant woman, tearfully detailing her trauma, without looking like the villain of the decade? Legal experts say it's a minefield. No matter how soft they tread, Cassie already made her mark. The jury, 8 men and 4 women, are locked in. You can feel it in the courtroom air. And here's what's really on the line. If Diddy is convicted, he could be facing life. That's right, life. Trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy. We're not talking minor charges. We're talking legacy-ending, empire-collapsing consequences. But this case goes far beyond Diddy and Cassie. It's about how power works in the music industry, how celebrities build walls of lawyers, assistants, and NDAs around their worst behaviors, how they trap victims in a system of fame, money, and fear. Diddy's being accused of more than abuse. He's accused of running his entire empire like a criminal organization. A machine built on control, on exploitation, on silence. And yet, amid the noise, one voice is shaking the ground louder than most. Rosie O'Donnell. Yes, that Rosie. She released a 10-minute TikTok where she didn't just spill the tea. She dumped the whole damn kettle. She called out Diddy, compared him to Harvey Weinstein, and told a story about how he once turned her away from a New Year's party for wearing sweatpants. Sounds funny, right? Until you realize that small moment of image obsession was a gateway to something far more sinister. Rosie didn't hold back. Too many people know him, she said. Too many people had to be involved. She questioned how someone so visible, so celebrated, could be capable of doing what he's accused of. She even asked bluntly, how can you not consider yourself a rapist if you're filming, watching, or participating in rape? That's not just commentary. That's fire. And just like that, a neighbor's TikTok becomes a courtroom tremor. She's now part of the public narrative. And let's be real, public opinion is powerful. If this goes viral in front of a potential jury pool, Diddy's already halfway convicted in the court of us. But Rosie wasn't the only voice adding pressure. 50 Cent, never one to miss a headline, roasted Diddy the minute news broke, tweeting about the 1,000 bottles of baby oil allegedly found in his home. He joked, but behind the sarcasm, that "I told you so" vibe was loud and clear. He's been hinting for years that Diddy's lifestyle wasn't just extravagant, it was dangerous. Then there's Charlemagne the God, who didn't joke, he warned. On The Breakfast Club, he flat out said Diddy's arrest could be the start of a much bigger storm. He implied that if others participated in those infamous freak-off parties, they should start sweating. If you've ever been half-naked around Diddy, he said, you might be in trouble. Translation? Diddy's not falling alone. If this ship sinks, it might take half of Hollywood with it. And yet, most of Hollywood has gone completely silent. Where's Jay-Z? J.Lo? Usher? Bieber? They partied with him, worked with him, made millions together. But now that the walls are crumbling, they're nowhere to be found. And that silence? It speaks volumes. So why are Diddy's biggest friends dead silent? Insiders say it's not just fear of guilt by association, it's survival. In Hollywood, reputation is currency. A single tweet, a bad headline, even standing next to the wrong person in a photo can tank your career. And when the allegations are this dark, the stakes are even higher. Eric Schiffer, a top reputation consultant, explained it best. Celebrities are scared to death that their brands will bleed out if they're tied to Diddy. And worse, if they cross him, they might go down next. Because here's the thing, even behind bars, Diddy is dangerous. His empire touches fashion, media, tech, nightlife. The man has reach. And with whispers of freak-off videos allegedly circulating the dark web, some celebs are scared that speaking out could make them targets too. Whether they're guilty of anything or just hiding secrets, they're staying quiet. Maybe out of loyalty, maybe out of fear, maybe both. But not everyone is willing to stay quiet. Aubrey O'Day, former member of Donity Kane, didn't just speak up, she broke down. In her own words, "Today is a win for women. Not just me, all of us. We buried this pain just to survive. But now, someone's listening." She says her time under Diddy wasn't just toxic, it was traumatic. So bad that she needed professional help to understand how deeply she'd been groomed and manipulated. Her voice is more than just cathartic, it's contagious. Because every time someone like Aubrey speaks, someone else finds the courage to say, "Me too." But with every brave voice comes one that pulls the other way. Enter Boozy Badass, the rapper who decided now was a good time to say, "Diddy ain't do nothing that other stars haven't done." His tweet set social media on fire. Some fans agreed, others were furious. But the damage was done. It exposed a deep divide in how people still view power, celebrity, and abuse. Some still protect the powerful. Others are ready to see them fall. And now, Hollywood is buzzing with questions that no one wants to answer. Because Diddy's legal nightmare isn't slowing down, it's spiraling. New lawsuits, new victims, new claims. It's like legal whack-a-mole. Every time his team knocks one down, another pops up. And the documentary, The Downfall of Diddy, that just poured gasoline on the fire. Produced by TMZ, the doc features rare interviews with ex-employees, insiders, and even Suge Knight. Yes, that Suge. And in a shocking twist, Suge didn't gloat. He showed empathy. "I thought I'd be glad," he said. "But my first thought? His kids. This isn't just bad for him, it's bad for the whole culture." Let that sink in. Suge Knight, the guy once seen as the villain of hip-hop, is calling Diddy's downfall a tragedy. And then came the biggest red flag yet, the 250 surveillance cameras seized from Diddy's home. Mark Curry, another former associate, says, "If the feds got that footage, there's no telling what they'll find." Think about that, 250 cameras in a single mansion. Who was being recorded? What? And who knew? If the footage matches even a fraction of what's been alleged, this isn't just a scandal. It's a collapse. Still, some former employees are too scared to speak. One source even backed out of the documentary last minute, writing to producers, "I'm afraid, not of Diddy, of his enemies. If I talk, I might be ruled a target." This isn't just about lawsuits anymore. It's about power, silence, and the unseen rules of the elite. And just when you thought it couldn't go deeper, it does. Because the man who once stood beside presidents and pop stars is now in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, denied bail, awaiting trial on charges that could lock him up for life. The irony? The glitz, the parties, the power, none of it protected him. And none of it's protecting his allies either. So now we ask, why is Jay-Z still silent? What did Justin Bieber see in those early days? How far does this go? And will Hollywood finally break the cycle of silence? Because Diddy may be the one on trial. But make no mistake, the whole industry is being watched.